I toured with Luis Miguel 2018, 2019, did about 2 years on the road with him. It was great. I mean, he's like I think he's the biggest name in music in the Spanish-speaking countries, and to get to go and play with him in all these countries that just adore him was a real treat, a real honor. You know, some of the venues were just huge. You know, like 20,000 people. And I would say that probably some of my favorite moments were where he'd be down there and looking up at me like, you know, like very affectionately, and I'm up there playing. I loved when those moments would happen because it was just, you know, it was a great experience to have somebody of his renown, of his talent, showing so much respect and literally just, you know, seeming as if he's just really liking what I'm doing. That feels good. That feels really good. I'm working on a new project now, and I've been doing some writing, and the new music is really exciting because it's new, you know. So there's just there's ideas that have been kicking around. And I took the moment to write them down and kind of demonstrate them and get some music for it, and working with the guys, and we're working on performance of these new songs. I really believe that after 2 years of working with Luis Miguel that it's really made a better saxophone player out of me. The style of music that he sings is so passionate, and I mean he's just so expressive when he sings, and vocal expression is just a whole nother level that when a saxophone tries to emulate that, I feel like it just takes it a step above. You know, and there's been a lot of learning. I feel like I got a good 2-year little course of study in, you know, with Latin music and with one of Mexico's finest singers, probably Mexico's finest singer. And taking all of that into a new project is a very exciting thing. With the talent that we've got around here, collaboration has been an awesome thing. My good friend Marc Antoine is an internationally acclaimed French guitarist, and he is, I brought all the music to him, and it's like he's somebody that, you know, getting to work with him some, getting a chance to work with, you know, Mark Hugenberger, you know, who's an amazing keyboard player. There's so much talent, collaborating with so many of I've got icons I've worked with in the past in smooth jazz, but I also have just such a wide base of friends that it's very fun introducing the smooth jazz world to them because they're just so talented, you know. So that's what I'm getting to do a lot of right now. That's what we'll be doing at this upcoming show, is introducing some people, some players that they're not the regular every weekend smooth jazz guitar player that you see all the time or whatever. These are people that are in other worlds that I get to bring them together into a smooth jazz environment and share them there. It's going to be a lot of fun doing these shows.
We're back.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, Terence.
Hey, we got somebody special coming up here now, don't we?
Yeah, well, you just watched the tune from Greg Vail, and Greg is, I mentioned we met back in 1984 doing a dinner theater together, and we were introduced, and at the time we were introduced, we had to sit down and sit next to each other for 12 hours in a rehearsal, and that was my first experience with Greg, and then we have just done a lot of music together over the years for all over the country, really, so all over the world. So please welcome our friend Greg Vail. Also, I will say that Greg Vail has had more hairstyle changes than anybody I've ever met over the time I've known him. He has had long, luxurious Fabio hair. He has had weird little Dieter hair. I don't know what else you call that. And now he's got this, and it's been a few others too. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing great, thanks. You've had the same hair for 30 years.
Yeah, well, I did have a mullet at one point, but
yes, I remember
that is true. That is true.
Good to see you, man. You hanging in there?
Man. Hanging in.
Right on.
So tell us a little bit. What was it like with Luis Miguel?
Well, it was pretty dang exciting because he's so huge in the Latin market that, I mean, the venues were just enormous and the people were just adoring. I could never figure out if he was having a bad day, how he could have a bad day, because every day, everywhere he went, people just treated him like the biggest superhero, you know? And it was great. It was great playing for him. The coolest thing about playing for Luis was that he loved saxophone. He loved the horns. And unlike a lot of artists that will take the time and spend the money to put horns on stage, he actually did it and then wanted to hear them. And that was so cool, you know, because most of the problems, I'd say 95% of the problems that we as a horn section or myself had with him had nothing to do with us. It had to do with the fact that we just weren't loud enough. And that was so cool, you know, because I mean, yeah, Tony, think about it, you know, I mean, most of the time you're just standing, you're just part of the set, you know, standing there. So that was really cool. I mean, he loves horns. He loves instrumental music, you know, I mean, the horn he just loves. So it was great to have a boss that wanted me to sound good and wanted me to be heard and would get mad because I couldn't be heard. That was so cool.
You got some music for us? What are you going to play?
Well, I've got some stuff that you helped me produce.
Oh, my favorite type.
I know. Don't you just love music that you got your hand in? We're going to do, I say we, like there's a band here, but I'm going to do Affirmation. And I think you know that one. Let me see if I can get it up real quick.
All right.
Pretend like you hear a ton of applause right now, Greg. Oh, wait.
Just like when you got 15,000
You got to
people
plug your
there.
mic back in to talk to us. Yep.
I said, pretend like you can hear me right now.
Yeah. That sounded great. The sax was cool, but I got to say the track sounded amazing.
I thought you might like that.
All right. Hey, listen, I don't want to run out of time. So do you have another song for us?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
a song,
What are you doing?
another song that you produced with me. It's called
Just
The
gets
In
better
Crowd.
and better.
I know. Could this be any more about you?
Oh, The In Crowd. This is a great song. Ramsey Lewis. Well, he didn't write it. He didn't write it, but he had the big hit in 1963 with this. Nice, Greg.
Sounds great, Greg.
Wow.
Nice. Hey,
Well,
hey,
that still
hey,
makes me
Greg.
tired even when we're just doing it online. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for being here, Greg. We actually have another tune from you right now. We're going to run some video from a show you did at Campus JAX with a tune called "There Will Never Be Another You." By the way, I'm going to just mention that both of the tunes you just played you can find on iTunes and all those various and sundry places. Correct?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Everything's up on CD
Smooth
Baby
Jazz
and
Classics.
Amazon.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Great. And your website is what? TonyGuerrero.com.
GregVail.com.
Oh, GregVail.com. All right. Love you, man.
Good to see you, Greg. Jeff Kashiwa became known as one of the most compelling young saxophonists in contemporary jazz during his first year with the Rippingtons. Kashiwa performed hundreds of shows all over the world and appeared on many of the band's classic recordings. It surprised many when Jeff left the group to venture out on his own, but he had things to say through his own music. Kashiwa has 9 CDs released under his own name and has continued to record as a guest artist with many others. In 2004, he founded the Sax Pack, a trio of saxophone headliners, including himself, Steve Cole, and Kim Waters. The group released 2 CDs together and charmed audiences. In 2006, Jeff reunited with the Rippingtons for the 20th anniversary tour and continues to record and tour with the group as often as his busy schedule will allow. In addition to touring with the Sax Pack and his own group, Kashiwa has expanded his career to include the realm of music education, teaching various courses throughout the music program at Shoreline Community College in Seattle. Steamers Jazz is proud to present Jeff Kashiwa.
We're back.
We're back, Tony.
Terence, meet Jeff Kashiwa.
Hello, Jeff. Nice to meet you, my friend. It's good to hear you, man. Well, sorry I never had a chance to have you at Steamers or anything like that, but I think you've been a pretty busy guy, you know, admiring Tony Guerrero's big band arrangements and things like that, you know.
Absolutely. I was just, pre-roll.
I love my story. We'll wait. Go ahead. No, I'm just kidding.
What I was saying was you are an outstanding arranger. I've always known you to be a great musician, but now you've expanded that into arrangement and orchestration.
Well, it's been great having you on the show, Jeff. And hey, so Terence, I'll just say this. I go back a long ways with Jeff, and as I was just approaching tonight, just trying to think, I actually don't remember, Jeff, exactly when we met. My earliest recollection of you, when did you get out of college? When did you graduate college?
I'll graduate in 2 months. No.
There you go.
No, I graduated in like 86, something like that.
Okay, so that works out because when I started college late 84, so 84 through, whenever I unceremoniously left college. So yeah, we were in college at the same time, but not at the same school. But my earliest recollection of you was hanging out backstage at one of the jazz festivals in Northern California. I don't remember Sacramento or wherever it was, but just briefly, although I feel like I knew you already by that day. So I don't know how that happened, but from then I was telling Terence, like you and I did some stuff together in town over the years. And then you just kind of, at one point we heard Jeff Kashiwa got the gig with the Rippingtons and he was off and running, and never talked to any of us again.
Yeah.
I have to go.
What's that?
I got some really important people to talk to, so I have to go.
That's right.
Right.
No,
and so
I'll tell you my recollection of our meeting. Well, I know that, I don't know when it first started, but I know that we worked together way back at a struggling musical theater in San Clemente.
yes, you're right. Yeah.
But we might have met before that.
So we did meet before that, but yes, that whole, really quickly, my very first gig out of high school was at a dinner theater called the Harlequin. Well, it was it called the Harlequin then? Sebastian's West, that's what it's called, which is now the Casino San Clemente. Oh, and then from there, and Greg Vail, that's when I met Greg Vail, was on that very first gig, very first rehearsal. He was sitting next to me, and he was so disgusted with me because I had just graduated high school and he had just graduated college, and he hated that we were on the same gig making the same money. And never quite let that go. But we did a bunch of those dinner theaters together, me and Greg, and so I think you were one of his first call subs,
right?
For that, yeah, and that's because you guys were in school together.
I'll tell you what, Greg's a fine musician. We would trade gigs all the time, and it's a funny thing. I was just telling my wife about this the other day. I will, to this day, reminisce about those times by myself. I'm going to be sitting in my studio by myself and think about those times and start busting out laughing because I believe it was your mission while there was a scene going on and we were resting to make me laugh by showing me lewd pictures that you drew.
That would have been me.
Yes.
By cracking a joke, something. It was just so fun. My face hurt after that, not from the chops, but from smiling and laughing so much. behind the scenes. So that was really a special time.
Those were fun. We were given a lot of leeway to mess with the show. I remember shooting spit wads at the actors on stage and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's great. So professional. So professional.
Yeah, so professional. Yeah. So yeah, very fun times. But yeah, then as we both got into the recording world and the contemporary jazz scene, like your career just really took off, and I mean you've had a long history of just being top of the game. It's been really great to see over all these years. So,
and that's very kind of you. But my perception is I'm just starting, just another year, and I'll get it going.
Right.
That's great.
I remember speaking of Greg Vail when he got a gig with a band called Kilauea.
Yes.
And at the time, Greg was private teaching a lot, and I remember he went to his wife and said, "I got this great gig, and I'm gonna have to quit teaching, but we're gonna it's this huge deal. We're going to be touring and recording." And she said, "Well, I'm so glad you're going to be successful. I just hope we can afford it."
That's a very good quote.
Yeah.
That's
Jeff, why don't you tell a little story about how you went from the Rippingtons to breaking into your own career and what was going on in your head at that time, and
Yeah, it was a hard decision to leave the group. I did 2 stints of 9 years. So towards the end of the first stint, I started recording my own material, which became the album Remember Catalina. And it wasn't like I was gangbusters. So I was able to record it, release it, do a few odd gigs here and there to support it, but still work with the Rippingtons. And it was that way for quite a while. But after a while, a couple albums down, like the third album, which I did with Native Language, which was, I think where most people might know me from, because the first 2 were such a small label, no one even heard the music. But anyway, at that point, I figured it was time to leave. So it's like you roll the dice. You think, I love this group, I love this job, but I need to devote more time to my own solo efforts. It's like, the old investing in yourself kind of.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one of the things I've loved about watching you through all your records is you've been able to keep the same guys for the most part. Like even just the stuff you just released that this week I saw, and I'm like, there's Melvin Davis and Dave Hooper and, just all the guys you've been working with for years. I love that. I mean, those are some of the best players around, but
what's interesting about thank you for noticing that. I know what sound I'm looking for. And those guys, when I found them, or not as if I discovered them, but
sure.
when I hired them, I thought that's exactly the way I want the bass to sound. That's exactly the way I want the drums to sound.
Right.
And what's is funny is I asked them, I don't know, 20 years down the road, do you guys play together without me, like in another situation? And they kind of in different configurations, but not all of them. No. So yeah. The unique combination that I think gets the sound that I want.
Yeah, that's great that you've been able to keep that going all this time. And yeah, it's awesome. And those are, Melvin is just such a dear friend of mine. And I worked with Hooper many times over the years. But it's just great to see that. And I just love that when I saw that latest release too.
Oh, great. Yeah. It's my boys.
And Jeff and I've played on one of his records or 2, and he's played on a couple of mine and are,
more than that, Tony, I called you for a session. I wanted to pay you for a song, and you actually helped me arrange the horn parts too. Came up with some very, very solid ideas for the horn arrangement. We recorded it in your bedroom. I remember that, and it became the Ah Ooh song, which is my one big one that kind of got a lot of people got to hear. And
yeah, big record.
You would refuse payment, so I would like to now PayPal you your session payment.
Watch how much has changed, because I'm not refusing it now.
Jeff, Tony played at Steamers for probably 15 years that I was there, at least once a month or so. He never refused the $50 I gave him for playing, right?
Well, but that was $50 for all 100 shows I did.
Oh, okay, there you go.
That is a deal. $50 for that much Tony Guerrero.
Well, you know what? I remember on that session too that was probably I seem to remember that part of what I was nervous about with your session was that was the first like professional legitimate record that I was going to record my stuff at home.
Right.
And so I was really nervous about could I do it right and engineer it and make it all happen right. I had done, like little projects for friends and been learning how to record at home. And I think we were on ADATs at the time, not
Yep.
even Pro Tools.
I remember the gear. I think it was a Blueberry microphone you had,
Yep. Yeah.
and it was a Roland, the hard disk recorder thing.
You're right. The 1680. Oh my gosh. It wasn't even the ADAT.
I was impressed you could work your way around that like a fax machine.
I don't think I can even turn it on now, but yeah, but I was nervous about that. I remember that. But yeah, what a great tune that was too. We should have planned on playing that here. I mean,
Yep.
but now how long have you been up north? Because you left LA a while ago.
Yeah, I
Oh my
think
God.
I've lost track of time. 23, 24, I guess 24 years. I can't remember. Yeah.
That long. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time. Yeah.
And we're gonna have you play, aren't we?
Sure.
Yeah.
Are we? Am I at the?
We'd love it if you would indulge us, please.
Should I get set up to do so?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
There's a procedure I wrote down. Number 1, mute my mic. So I will be silent for a bit. You'll be
All right.
happy about that.
And Terence, you can read some of the legalese stuff we have to do.
Okay, yeah. Well, is it going to really be that long, or what?
Probably not,
Okay.
but it's awkward
While
silence.
he's getting ready, I want to let everyone know that we are continuing. This is our 40th streaming thing here for the show on Sunday nights, and you can help us out by going to steamersjax.com and throw $1 or $2 in the tip jar. Help us continue doing this. Upcoming this Thursday, Stacy Griesbach will be live on the stage at Campus JAX, which are streaming, and on New Year's Eve, we're back to business. We hope. Tony Guerrero and Crystal. Why did I say?
Shania Twain.
Tony, you froze.
Yeah,
I don't know
froze.
what's going on, man.
I think I'm okay.
Your picture.
All right, Jeff, are you with us now? All right, we're going to hear a little bit from Jeff Kashiwa live from somewhere up north. Seattle, right?
Nice.
Beautiful, Jeff. Jeff, listen, before you change all your mic stuff out, do you have a second song for us? Because we might as well just jump right to it.
Not a live one.
Oh, okay. All right, no worries. That's all. I just wanted to make sure before we disconnected all your mic stuff. Come on back and join us.
All right.
Beautiful, man. You have such a great sound.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Thank you very much. Someone remind me next song not to write so many key changes. I think I missed a couple.
There's you have that awkward thing of like, what do you do when you're playing to a track and there's an instrumental section that doesn't include you and you just have to stand there and kind of wait.
I'm really good at listening.
Yeah, we did one of the videos we shot with Jane and Kate. There's a whole section of that, and they had a lot of fun with that moment in the video. But I digress. Let's go back to you. So, hey, tell us about some of the other stuff you're working on. You have new stuff coming out, right?
I do indeed. Yeah, I'm just finishing up a brand new CD. It's being mixed as we speak, and same guys, along with a brass section from Seattle.
Nice.
Trombone, French horn.
Wow.
Yep. And I'm really happy with that part of it. So it's very organic in that way. Plus, I played flutes and clarinets and things like that.
Yeah.
Really, certain songs are larger that way with full arrangements, and then some songs are very intimate, very just rhythm section and sax. So it's a diverse thing going on.
Yeah.
You said you were playing French horn?
No. I hired.
Actually, I was going to say, the embouchure must be.
Yeah, I won't go too far into it, but this is one of the youngest musicians I've ever hired. At the time, he was 17.
Wow.
Nailed it. No auto-tune, folks. He just came in. I gave him the parts. He played it beautifully.
Oh, that's great. Is that the track we just heard? I noticed like some warm brass stuff. Is that from there?
This album kind of started this whole process of brass, but this is from an earlier 2017 release, and that was a gentleman who teaches up over at Cornish, which is one of the classical schools here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're in Seattle, right?
Yep.
So then, go ahead, Tony.
Well, I was going to ask about I know you teach at one of the colleges there, also at Shoreline, right?
Yes, Shoreline Community College, and ever since March we've been COVID city, so we've been online. And I was already an online teacher for the music technology, so I teach. I'm the chair of the department in music technology, so we teach Pro Tools, Logic, Live, Sibelius, music notation software.
Awesome.
And then the other half of my teaching thing was the ensembles, jazz ensemble, a funk and groove band, which we're going to hear a little later on. And then what else? Oh, and then something called the Snarky Ensemble, a fusion ensemble.
Nice.
Yeah.
Snarky.
Snarky, as in Snarky Puppy.
That you're with that group?
No, that college ensemble.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
I just stole their name.
That's an interesting group themselves. So are there things like later on in the next year that have been canceled, or are they able to start planning live stuff for you or anything like that?
Zero.
No.
We won't. Yeah, we're working on this technology for all you tech geeks out there. This is pretty cool. It's called Splash Top. It's remote access. So basically, the problem is we're teaching software, right? And not every student has a Mac, and not every student owns Pro Tools, Logic. They don't have access to our labs at school anymore because they're locked out. So we got this thing called
That's a good point. Yeah,
Splash Top, right? Which allows anybody with a Mac or PC to hack into the school computers and actually utilize the software and the hardware at the school.
Exactly.
And it routes audio back, including MIDI, to the host.
At my paying job, my day job, I'm an IT guy, and I use Splash Top Business and the Streamer.
What's it called? Splash Top?
Splash Top Business. Yeah. And you can, you pay for a license and a certain amount of people, but it's super fast. It's got a great file transfer. It's really, really good.
So Jeff, for myself and for others listening, is that a platform where I could do a session with somebody else at home and it's relatively real time and we're hearing each other? Is that?
Let's see. You could, okay. So you as the producer could be on someone else's computer if they have Pro Tools or whatever you work with.
Right.
You could be as if you're sitting in the room with them.
Yeah.
and you could say, hey, let's take it from, letter D and let's take another take.
Because I know I can do that with things like TeamViewer and AnyDesk, but I don't get the audio. So the audio is really interesting to me. I'll have to look into that.
I am actually surprised how well it works.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Okay, good. I'm going to have to check that out.
Essentially, it is kind of like a TeamViewer Pro, but it's you don't have the live streaming video while you're doing it, but you're watching real time, and there's no lag. And I've got
the audio is great because I do stuff all the time where I may control a session or help somebody with a session at home from here, but I can't hear what's going on. I just So yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
awesome.
Interesting.
All right, well, good. Jeff, I think we have to go because this is actually like a timed show.
Oh, okay.
And everything.
All right.
What a pleasure to meet you, and hopefully we'll see you sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Jeff. I know you haven't been down here, but the stage and the setup, everything at Campus JAX, and we've been going during this time too. But it's a great venue, and it's right up your alley. Like a great sound system, whether we're indoors or outdoors. Great sound system, lights, whole thing. Your band would be great here, and all the guys are close by, of course. Melvin's played here a few times.
Yeah.
I would love to. I will consider this a recorded invitation.
That's it.
I'll play it.
Well, as I will consider this a recorded offer of paying me for that session back.
That's right. Tony will add his $50 to your.
Right. Hey man, it's really great seeing you and talking to you again. And
what a pleasure, man! What a pleasure. Thank you. Stay safe.
We're gonna go out with another video of yours. Maybe you can set it up for us. It's called Giving In. Is that right?
No,
not that. Is that the right one? Yeah, Giving In.
Are we doing Giving In or are we doing Winter Wonderland?
I think that one we're going to do at the end of the night.
So Giving In. Okay, so Giving In. The quick story is I finished recording all the sax parts to the album last summer. Then the mouthpiece company called Jody Jazz that I'm associated with sent me a new mouthpiece to try out, and I loved it. So I said, okay, start over, and I recorded the entire thing over again.
Wow, you're kidding.
Because I like the sound of the new mouthpiece is better. It's like, this is actually the sound I was going for. So anyway, I did everything again. So I decided, well, it should record all the recording sessions for the new CD. So what you're going to watch is not too exciting. It's just me standing right here, but it's the actual recording of the part that you hear on the single.
Wow, that's great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, man, thanks for the
pleasure.
Thank you.
Available everywhere, right?
Yes.
The new album, is it out now?
The album's not out. The single is available.
The single is out.
All
right, here we go.
Early 2021. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
See you.
Ba 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 ba
Jason Fabus is enjoying a wonderful journey as a highly sought-after professional saxophonist throughout Southern California. Jason is also a well-known songwriter, arranger, and producer under the name J-Fab, and has collaborated with numerous artists including Billy Davis Jr., Marilyn McCoo, Cameron Kinghorn, Bardo, and the Regiment Horns of the Tennessee Kids. Fabus is also an esteemed music educator, serving as a coach and clinician at several schools while maintaining his own studio of private students in saxophone, flute, clarinet, and piano. Although still early in his professional career, Jason has already performed with many notable musicians including Arturo Sandoval, Jane Monheit, Kim Richmond, Wayne Bergeron, Andy Martin, and George Benson. He recently recorded saxophone on Panic at the Disco's new album Pray for the Wicked, The Simpsons, the Netflix Mystery Science Theater, DreamWorks Animation Trolls World Tour, and video games Fortnite. Steamers Jazz at Campus JAX is proud to present Jason Fabus.
All right, we're back, and look who's with us. Welcome,
Jason Fabus, man. How you doing, buddy?
Terence and Tony, good to see you guys.
Good to see you
too. Man, you were swinging there.
Yeah, you've been on our list to get on this show for a while, and it just hadn't happened yet. But so I'm glad to have you here with us tonight. So
Yeah, I've been a fan of it. A lot of the people that you've had on are friends of mine. You know, we play together, and it's just good to see them doing their thing. So
yeah, well, Terence was fighting against having you, but I pushed it through.
That's because Tony told me you turned him down for a gig.
I don't know nothing about that.
But hey, Jason. So here's the thing. I do have a couple questions for you because I don't really know you that well. I mean, your name has sort of, for lack of a better way to put it, sort of exploded onto the scene over the last couple of years, and we haven't worked together. But I've heard a lot of you playing online, and you know, like we said, with various friends of mine, and so what I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to guess that you're probably well behind me in years, and then twice as far with Terence. But
yes,
but I keep thinking, like, one of the things I'm watching right now, and maybe you can address this for me. Mm-hmm. When I was coming up and you know, getting onto the scene, this was late 80s or so. Most of the guys my age at that time, we were coming out of this whole like fusion scene, and it was before smooth jazz, but there was this time of like contemporary jazz, and that's sort of what we were doing at that time. And most of the guys that were my age, everybody was pursuing that. You know, the Chikri Electric Band was pretty hot at the time, and you know, Still Weather Report was still big. These days, there's a lot of guys your age who are just embracing this classic style, but not only just playing the tunes, but playing it really authentically. Everything from your sound to your phrasing to everything about it is so authentic to that. And I'm just curious where that comes. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of consider you one of the leaders of the pack when I hear you play for all these young guys who are doing that style. And there's a lot of guitar players. I'm hearing a lot of guitar players. But maybe you can address where did that come from let's say over the last 10 years to all of a sudden capture the attention of a bunch of the younger players?
I think it's definitely it wasn't like a shift where everybody was like, okay, let's just get into this style now. It's been like a transformation over the last few years. I know, like, personally, before coming out to California, I moved out here in 2012. I was going to school up in Minnesota. And I actually did a classical saxophone degree up there.
Wow.
And then, but me personally, I was always just into kind of the Capitol era singers of like the late 50s. So like if I wasn't playing saxophone and I was just listening to music, it was usually like Frank or Nat King Cole or Sarah Vaughan or Mel Torme. And I got into like the string arrangements, like Nelson Riddle and Gordon Jenkins. And for some reason, that was just a sound that I liked. And what I didn't realize was that I was listening to tunes like Swanderful or On the Street Where You Live, or the one that we just played, which was Them Their Eyes. And like I was approaching these tunes from a context of late 50s, which is what I was into. So then as I move out to California, I start to meet some musicians. A very good buddy of mine, Gareth Price, actually. I have to give him credit because he was really into traditional music because he was working with a musician at Disneyland, Ralph Reynolds and John Reynolds. So it was kind of this mixture of me being into standards from the 50s, but then starting to meet the right people out here in California that were more about playing those tunes in the vernacular of the 1920s or 30s, where they came from. And then at the same point, like still trying to become a part of the scene out here, which is modern and is progressive. So like, it's just like this combination of trying to fit everything. So it's cool. I think it's still changing, but it's really cool to see young musicians getting back into concepts of phrasing and swinging and playing proper melodies and basically like emphasizing the melody. Like my concept is I want to play the melody. When I call a tune, it's because I want to play that melody, not that I want to solo over that tune.
You're speaking my language. Yeah, I totally hear you. I honestly, I could probably go a whole night and never take a solo, and much to the appeasement of the other musicians. But I would be happy to just play melodies all night, like to play those tunes. And similarly, like the era I really gravitate to, like I have this huge affinity for Louis Armstrong. But the era I really gravitate to is that 1950s, late 50s, early 60s, the Singers records, so yeah, same thing. But I didn't come into that until later. Because like I said, I came out of a whole different scene. All the guys my age were doing this, more contemporary stuff. So it's fascinating to me to all of a sudden see so many young guys doing that.
Yeah, I do feel more of them are starting to do it with us too. So we're starting to see it become a thing. At first I thought it was just a West Coast thing or maybe a Los Angeles thing with all the swing dancing out here. But now I'm starting to hear records from, younger kids in Canada that are playing this way, and New York, of course, Chicago, and of course in Europe. So it's really awesome.
I have to imagine some of that, in the 90s, that whole jump swing thing kind of took off again. And I have to imagine some of it came out of that, even like the Brian Setzer records and, the Squirrel Nut Zippers, all these bands that were sort of embracing that. So I'm guessing that's part of it, but it's just, anyways, I love it.
Would you say, Tony, were you kind of a part of that too? If you're going back to the 90s, did you or did your bands shift more towards that 90s rock and roll thing?
No. So I did the contemporary thing for a lot of years, and I kind of lost interest when it became smooth jazz. I did start playing this music, more traditional music, in the late 90s. I started transitioning to that, but it was really because I went to Europe around 91 or so, and I connected back. Now in Europe in 1991, all the guys your age were playing this music. So it was really these young European musicians who turned me on to, not that I wasn't familiar with Louis Armstrong, but really turned me on to that era and made me fall in love with that music at a time when I was putting out records that were very contemporary. So by the time I got, started getting tired of that other music, I really wanted to play standards. And so I started transitioning, but I've never wanted to be a costume band. And in the late 90s, the jump swing, and I don't knock that. It was just something I didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of bands that were putting on the zoot suits and kind of doing this, this showy thing. I really just wanted to play the music. And so when you ask if I did that, I wasn't really part of that scene, but I was starting to play, music from that era at that time. But I didn't.
I do want to remind you, Jason, that Tony did have a mullet and wore it well. But interestingly enough, though, because I hear, the influences you were talking about. One of the reasons that I chose to open Steamers was that I was kind of a straight ahead guy. I am, as Tony was saying, old. And I grew up, and my father, I listened to things like Al Hurt, Dexter Gordon, Sonny Rollins, things like that. That's where, and I'm a sax player, but not a professional. But that's what I did for many, many years. And when I, one of the things I heard, and when I opened up Steamers, was in the midst of a lot of this contemporary jazz. And one of the things that I wanted to do was feature straight ahead stuff. So, I got in, Herb Geller from Germany. I got a lot of Lou Tabakin from New York. I brought in a lot of great players that were in that thing. Ernie Watts, and he was a little bit more contemporary, but he's still, Pete Chrisley, all these cats. And that's what, and I was like, for me, listening to Dexter Gordon, you talked about melodies, do Society Red, about a 5-minute solo of just repeated melodies that just continue to go. Not shredding to the point of where you don't understand what he's doing, but it's all a melody. And that's what
Sonny Rollins would pick obscure show tunes from the 20s.
Yeah.
We're in the Money or just random tunes, and then he would be free over it, but
Who's the guys? Name 3 sax players that influenced you the most.
That's I hate that question. I would say.
I mean, Kenny G. We'll get Kenny G out of the way, but
Kenny Garrett. You mean? I do consider myself primarily an alto player. That's my favorite voice. So I'll just stick with alto players, and we will get Charlie Parker out of the way. I think we've all would do that. But a couple guys that are more on the melodic side, or at least I admire their melodic side, I'm a huge fan of Paul Desmond.
Yep.
And I think he's completely underrated in the current youth and collegiate jazz programs. He doesn't get mentioned enough. And then also Benny Carter.
Yeah.
Super good player, but like you could tell when he's playing the alto, he was kind of in that era with the big band era where you got Marshall Royal and like Johnny Hodges and Coleman Hawkins, where it was like the saxophone was like this opera style voice. So you focused all on phrasing and vibrato and all that stuff. So you hear that in Benny Carter's playing, but then at the same point, he could take a solo and play all the same vocabulary that Parker was playing. So
you mentioned Marshall Royal, who's another person who doesn't get mentioned very much. And earlier you mentioned the arranger Gordon Jenkins. Do you have that record that they did together?
Oh yeah,
with Caravan, with that crazy. Caravan? What is that? I need somebody to transcribe that because I need to look at those string parts. But everybody who's listening, grab a pen and write that down. It's a Gordon Jenkins record featuring Marshall Royal, and it's just, oh my gosh.
And like if you're a horn player or if you're a singer and you're trying to learn like vocabulary and you're trying to learn licks and transcribe stuff, man, if you listen to these arrangements by those guys and girls, you're gonna hear the licks. They have so much like great thought out ideas in those arrangements. So like it's not just about the transcribing instrumentalists. It's about like that's what I loved about that era. I just feel like everybody was on their A game.
Yeah,
late 50s, early 60s.
Over the last several years, I've gotten to do a bit of big band arranging, which is fairly new to me, like only the last 10 years, and ended up getting to do some albums and some studio recordings of these arrangements. And boy, for me to do that, I have to sit in my studio and I mock them up like for days and days and weeks and like listen in my car a million times to all the MIDI demos just to make sure everything's right. And I just marvel that those guys walked in back at that time before you could do that. Just they never heard it. They just knew it was going to be great, and then they put it down in front of the Sinatra orchestra, and it was amazing. You know, I just marvel at that.
I always say, like, I think late 50s to me is a period where musicianship was still high in the sense that you had to nail it in the studio, right? But then also that's when engineering was also getting really good because we started to hear stereo, and I think we're starting to get better ribbon mics and condensers. I'm not 100% sure, but it's like that's the moment where both musicianship and producers and engineers were at an all-time high. And then as you start to get later, especially with pop music, it's like now it's all about the producer and the engineer and much less about the artist.
One of the things I love to do is I really believe, like you're mentioning, that engineers, they recorded and mixed for the era they were in. So when you listen to a 1928 recording of Duke Ellington on your iPad or whatever, it's going to sound one way. But when you listen to it in a Victrola with that big horn, it's a whole different experience.
I bet.
So for me, like I have a Victrola downstairs, and then I also have a 1960 Grundig Majestic stereo console. That when I want to listen to those like late 50s records, they sound unbelievable on those units, and they don't sound that way in any on any of this high end gear here. They just have this character because they were being engineered for the best equipment at the time, and that to me is where they sound the best. So those records do sound amazing then. And there's a great book called Sessions with Sinatra you should check out. That it's not anything about his scandals or love life. It's only about every recording session he ever did from his first one to his last. And it talks about all the mics and the musicians and the studio setups. It's great. It's a great walk through the recording industry, especially.
Have you guys ever heard Frank, like studio chatter of Frank?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
It's great. Like he'll catch something. He'll be like, "Hey, on bar 52, I didn't like that chord or something," and he'll make a change. It's like, dude. Here will be my shameless plug for me and for my singer Natalie, who I'm privileged to play with whenever I can. We did a Christmas album that we put out last year. It's available everywhere. It's going to be by the Fabus 4. That's my quartet. And we did 6 tunes, some of my favorite ones, and then some of hers. And they're going to be playing it on K-Jazz in a couple of weeks here, so we're happy for the support there. But if you're looking for more holiday jazz to add to your collection, which I hope everybody is, that would be the one to do.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and I'm definitely a fan of yours, and I do hope we can share a stage sometime soon.
Yeah, Terence, Tony, and Tim, who's running everything, thank you for having me on. And let's please, when the time is right, I'd love to just sit down and chat more. We just barely scratched the surface. So
And again, thank you for being with us, and we'll hope to see you soon.
All right, guys.
My friend.
When snowflakes fall.
Time to get your collar pressed. Time to get yourself all dressed. Time to get your shiny dance shoes on, 'cause everybody's jumping at Jax. All the kids are coming down just to dig the swinging sound. You can hear the band from miles away, 'cause everybody's jumping at Jax. Here's a little well-known secret, sure as there's the sky above.
Nothing could be any sweeter
than dancing with the one you love. When life is like a sour note, here's a happy antidote. Come to where the party never ends, 'cause everybody's jumping at Jax.